Chapter 35. Still feeling the thrumming of utmost fury at the sheer gall of this bitch in attempting to mind control me into being her puppet, I instinctively dipped into my hollow instincts as though I was in hell again when I was so much weaker. My primal roar of fury cratered the ground around me, sending the lancing tornadoes of mist she sent at me scattering into pieces, along with sending her tumbling through a couple jungle trees by the sheer force of the basically solid wall of spiritual pressure, wind, and sound. Lord, don't kill her, Wonder Woman yelled, but if anything, it seemed like she was merely reminding me rather than I am going to get hit in the back of the head with brick way Batman would have yelled, so I so stiffly nodded and stomped into the jungle following the line of knocked over trees as I approached where Encantadora was attempting to sit back up. Thing was that despite whatever her powers she had giving her some super strength and durability, those powers weren't nearly at all at the same level as Superman or Wonder Woman, who could be slapped by a god through a mountain and fly out none the worse for the physical blow. You don't have any respect for the fairer sex, do you? Encantadora asked as she staggered back to her feet despite her legs visibly shaking from being smashed through several trees and buried into a small hill. I am a true supporter of gender equality. I will rip out your fucking spine the same as I do to any man who attempts to mind control me. I responded softly as I smashed aside the small tornadoes of mist she sent at me, and as she obviously attempted to fly away on said mist I used a sonido to teleport behind her. Eat some dirt, I said coldly as kicked her back into the soft jungle dirt, and then to fully bring her out of the fight I came down in a green-encased tornado of wind as stomped both of my feet into her stomach, making her vomit at the blow and simply roll up in a fetal position as she held onto her stomach. That should be enough, I muttered as I leaned down and grabbed her ebony tresses of hair and carelessly began dragging her ass through the jungle towards the drug lab where the sounds of gunshots were slowing down along with the random screams. Probably screams of fear from Galatea and Wonder Woman throwing them around like dolls, but who knows? I thought as I didn't believe people screamed all that much in a gunfight, but I could be wrong. Kid, let me go. Come on, I can make it worth your while. Encantadora begged, and thankfully for her, she didn't try to mind control me again, or I would literally pull a Bane and snap her back over my knee, as mind control on me was not going to be accepted. I merely gave the woman bent over as she attempted to stand up from me, dragging her by her hair, a quick warning. If I wasn't under Wonder Woman's tutelage and met you randomly, I would done worse than volleyball spike you into the ground for your mind control. Don't test my patience, as I believe in the old school style of heroes, I said as gripped her hair tighter in warning, and in response she took a deep breath and probably decided to cut her losses hearing my not at all modernly heroic warning. Encantadora wasn't stupid at all, she knew with how angry I was. Not to mention the fact that an angry Kryptonian and Wonder Woman was around, which proved she didn't have a real chance in escaping, as her magical mists couldn't control women and I had already shut down her magical nonsense with my Traveler and Wind abilities, cut her various mist abilities out before they could condense. You won't even entertain the idea of hearing my offer. I can see you are a teenager. Wouldn't you like to stash away a beauty like me for some fun lovemaking? She offered. I merely gave her a look of disdain. You kissed Superman to give him a nanomachine poison. As beautiful you are, it's simply not worth my life, or you escaping. As I said that, I however couldn't help entertaining the thought of the busty Latina doing those kinds of things, but it wasn't even my morality that stopped me from doing it. For one, I had little way to hide her away in the middle of battle that wouldn't be obvious, as opening a garganta to somewhere left magical traces. And frankly, as I just said, she was a femme fatale that wasn't afraid to use her sex appeal to lead men to their deaths. Despite Encantadora's offers of sexual or monetary favors, I soon enough reached the remains of the drug lab, with the Colombian soldiers liberally pouring gasoline everywhere in the drug lab to destroy the encampment. Wonder Woman, I got her, I said as I gestured to the woman I had tucked under my arm rather than drag her into the camp. Good work, Lord. We have a metahuman collar in the chopper we came in, so put that on her so we can drop her off at Belle Reve when we get back to the States. Wonder Woman congratulated me, smiling at me capturing my first villain under her tutelage, and even Galatea grinned seeing the clearly well beaten into behaving form of Encantadora. Before I could do just that, the soldiers' leader, a colonel, was yelling Spanish I didn't understand into a large radio or satellite phone thing before he took on a dark red blush of anger as he slammed the phone down on the receiver, ending the call. But Wonder Woman, who basically understood all languages of the world, frowned as she sent a look at me, and I froze, wondering if I did some major social faux pas in Colombia I had no clue of. But then I realized she was looking at the smug form of Encantadora that was all smiles even when tucked in my steel-tight grip. You heard him, little boy. The Colombian government has refused to extradite me to the imperialist United States so I can face an honorable trial in my homeland. Realizing this was almost certainly some corrupt bullshit, I had a tiny voice in the back of my head telling me quite clearly, snap the bitches back. She is already nice and tucked into your arms. Just end the suffering she will inevitably cause. Arguing with the voices in your head never works, as it always has a perfect counterargument, and how could I argue with how a non-super genius villain being crippled into a wheelchair wouldn't be causing massive catastrophes as they can't pull terrorist bullshit when most buildings don't have convenient wheelchair access. Seriously, imagine Joker about to set bombs in some factory or something, but he can't get into the factory because the shitty buildings in Gotham wouldn't have something as convenient as a wheelchair ramp. Ah, no speaky español. I said with the most stereotypical deadpan as the Colonel's and Wonder Woman's face twitched as the Colonel was talking to Wonder Woman in Spanish while I meanwhile dragged Encantadora towards the helicopter and more specifically towards the metahuman collar. Let me go. I surrender myself to the military of Colombia. She yelled, realizing if I threw her in the chopper and took off before negotiations could go through then she may just end up in one of the super prisons and her corrupt little friends just naming her a lost cause.